ಬಂದ, ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುದೇವ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ. ಕಾಲಲಿ ಪಾದುಕ ಕೈಯಲಿ ದಂಡ, ಕಾಲಲಿ ಪಾದುಕ ಕೈಯಲಿ ದಂಡ, ಬಾಲರವಿಯ ಕಳೆಯ ಯೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ, ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ದೇವ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ. ಮಸ್ತಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಜಟೆ ಶೋಭಿಸುತ್ತಲ್ಲಿ, ಕಸ್ತೂರಿ ತಿಲಕ ಚಂದನ ಹಣೆಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಮಸ್ತಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಜಟೆ ಶೋಭಿಸುತ್ತಲ್ಲಿ, ಕಸ್ತೂರಿ ತಿಲಕ ಚಂದನ ಹಣೆಯಲ್ಲಿ. ವಿಸ್ತರ ನಗುಮುಖದ ಆ ವಿಸ್ತರ ನಗುಮುಖದ ಯೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ, ಯೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ, ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುದೇವ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ. ಜೋಲುತ್ತಿರಲು ಕೊರಳೊಳು ರುದ್ರಾಕ್ಷ, ಜೋಳಿಗೆ ಬಗಲಲಿ ತ್ರಿಲೋಕರಕ್ಷ. ಜೋಲುತ್ತಿರಲು ಕೊರಳೊಳು ರುದ್ರಾಕ್ಷ, ಜೋಳಿಗೆ ಬಗಲಲಿ ತ್ರಿಲೋಕರಕ್ಷ. ಕಾಷಾಯಾಂಬರದ ಆ ಕಾಷಾಯಾಂಬರದ ಯೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ, ಯೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ, ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುದೇವ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ. ಕುರುದ್ವೀಪದಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣೆಯ ತಟದಲ್ಲಿ, ಸರಸದಿ ವಾಸಿಪ ಶ್ರೀಪಾದ ಯೋಗಿ. ಕುರುದ್ವೀಪದಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣೆಯ ತಟದಲ್ಲಿ, ಸರಸದಿ ವಾಸಿಪ ಶ್ರೀಪಾದ ಯೋಗಿ. ಪರಮ ಪುರುಷ ನೃಹರಿ ಈ ಪರಮ ಪುರುಷ ನೃಹರಿ ಯೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ, ಯೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ, ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುದೇವ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ. ಕಲ್ಪದ್ರುಮನೀತ ನಿತ್ಯ ಪೂರ್ಣ ಸಚ್ಚಿದಾತ್ಮದತ್ತ. ಭಕ್ತ ಕಾಮ ಕಲ್ಪದ್ರುಮನೀತ ನಿತ್ಯ ಪೂರ್ಣ ಸಚ್ಚಿದಾತ್ಮದತ್ತ. ಶಂಕರ ಗುರು ರೂಪ ಚಿನ್ಮಯ ಗುರು ರೂಪ ಯೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ, ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುದೇವ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ. ಕಾಲಲಿ ಪಾದುಕ ಕೈಯಲಿ ದಂಡ ಬಾಲರವಿಯ ಕಳೆಯ ಯೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ದೇವ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ ಯೋಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರು ದೇವ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ.
सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. ॐ नमो भगवते वैवस्वताय मृत्यवे ब्रह्मविद्याचार्याय नचिकेतसे च. Humble prostrations to one and all. So in the last class, we were seeing verse number 2. Why is it that people, in spite of knowing that this is the path of preyas, why is it that majority of the people choose the inferior path? So this question is answered in verse number 2. So last class we were discussing this verse. Shreyascha preyascha manushyametaha. All of us, we have to face situations in life. The world presents again and again with varieties of situations. We have to handle these situations. Now what is said here, in every situation we will find these two paths, the path towards shreyas and the path towards preyas. As far as a wise man is concerned, tau samparitya vivinakti dhiraha. The wise people, dhiraha, the wise man, the one who has dhi, the one who is capable of thinking deep. What does he do? Samparitya. He analyzes the situation, investigates the situation, thinks from various angles, examines all possible examines thoroughly from all possible angles, and thus finally he clearly sees these two paths, the path of shreyas and the path of preyas. What is important, what is unimportant, what is good for me, what is not good for me, what is that which will lead me to spiritual path, which will help me evolve in this path, what is that which will obstruct me in this path. In this way he analyzes everything, and then he clearly sees two paths, the path of the good, the path of shreyas and the path of preyas, and then he chooses the path of shreyas. This is the case of a dhira. What about a manda, the one who is not able to think deep? So he gets attracted by the initial pleasures. The intellect is paralyzed, it is no more able to function because it is so much attracted towards these pleasures that he forgets the final pain. The external appearance, the attraction of the outer world captures his intellect, and the intellect is paralyzed, unable to think. Now this is called as manda. So what happens? In the beginning there is some pleasure, there is some happiness, but in the end there is only suffering, pain and misery. Why is he suffering? It is only because he has not analyzed the situation. He has not thought about the situation. Manda. This is because of the dullness of the intellect. So here it is said, preyo mando yoga-kshemat vrinite. So in this world, the manda people, the unintelligent ones, what do? They choose the path of preyas. Why? Because of the pressure of yoga-kshema. So this is the one which we have to discuss now. What is yoga-kshema? Loosely translated, it is nothing but fulfilling the worldly needs. Yoga-kshema means fulfillment of the worldly needs. So a manda person is the one who dedicates his life only for fulfilling the worldly needs. Now why is he doing it? Even though he is a manda, he also analyzes situations. So what is his analysis? His analysis is, I am living in this world, I am living in this body. So therefore existence of this body is my existence. And when the body dies, I also die, I also lose my existence. So therefore, since I want to exist, and since body is the means of existence, so therefore nourish this body, nurture this body, pamper this body, fulfill all the needs of this body. This is his understanding. Now this is the understanding of majority of the people in this world. I am this body, body's existence is my existence, so therefore in order to exist, let me fulfill all these bodily needs. They can't even think, they can't even imagine that we can exist without the body. Now see, this is the difference between manda and dhira. According to a manda person, body is me, full stop. So therefore, what is existence? Existence is nothing but existing in this body, in this world. This is their definition of existence. They can't even think that existence is possible without body, mind, intellect. So naturally, because of this understanding is clearly reflected in their lives. So what do? How will they spend their time? Since bodily existence is their existence, their highest priority is in fulfilling bodily needs. Now this is called as yoga-kshema. So what is yoga-kshema? Yoga means apraptasya praptihi yogaha, praptasya rakshanam kshemaha. So there are two things. Yoga means acquiring everything which you don't have now. That is yoga. Yoga has, please don't misunderstand yoga to be, some spiritual practice in order to gain God. No. In this context, yoga means trying to acquire every worldly thing which you need for your bodily existence. Acquiring things which you don't have. Kshema means preserving things which you already have. Majority of the people, we live this only, under the pressure of yoga-kshema. So what is our lifestyle? If you see this, our life generally, initial years are gone in studies, education. Why education? Because only then you will get a job. Better education, better job. Why do you need a job? Job will give you money. So it is all a bread-winning education. All our schools and colleges, it is nothing but bread-winning education. I am interested in studies not because the subject is interesting, It is because I will get a job and the job will give me money, and the money is very, very useful in fulfilling my worldly needs. So job, then what? Big house, then what? Get married, then what? Children, then what? Take care of the needs of these children. So by the time we reach up to this stage, our children are married. By the time we get our children married, it is almost 60 years. So in all these 60 years, what are we doing? We are doing yoga, acquiring education, acquiring job, making a house. That which I don't have, I acquire. Job, house, wife, children, grandchildren, acquiring process, the process of yoga. After roughly around 60 years, it is all kshema. You try to maintain what you have already gained. Maintenance of wealth, because most of the time you are retired. After retirement, you just maintain your wealth, you don't earn wealth generally. Maintaining your health, you don't try to improve your health, it is only maintenance of health. Maintenance of your house, you don't build a new house, whatever house you have, you just maintain it through repair work, etc. Maintain your relationships. So this is what happens. So roughly up to 60 years it is yoga, after 60 years it is kshema. Generally, exceptions are always there. So in short, our entire life is dedicated for yoga and kshema. Who are the people who do this? Now here Shruti says manda. The people who don't have sharp intelligence, people with dull intellect. Now this is a strong criticism, but we have to understand one thing here. As far as fulfilling the worldly needs are concerned, everyone has to fulfill the worldly needs, whether shreyārthī or preyārthī. We have no choice. Worldly needs are important. Physical needs are important. They are all necessary. Then what is criticized here? Now this has to be understood. When a person keeps fulfilling the worldly needs as the highest priority of life, then such a person is called preyārthī. Now this point has to be understood. Because in the society you will find preyārthī and shreyārthī, both of them fulfilling the needs, bodily needs. Then what is the difference? The difference is this. Preyārthī keeps this yoga-kshema as the very goal of life. He has no other goal in life. Whereas a shreyārthī, for him also worldly needs are important, but they are only a means. For him, spiritual evolution is the goal of life. Now this has to be clearly understood. Because in the society you will find everybody fulfilling these needs. But the question is, what is your priority in life? What is the goal in life? This makes the difference. So as far as a preyārthī is concerned, he is not bothered about spirituality at all. He is only bothered about making his external environment more conducive. And for that, the most important thing is wealth. And therefore, entire life goes in earning wealth. Generally this term they use. Swamiji, I am settled in life. I am settled. This is a term used generally. What do you mean settling? Settling means permanent job, permanent house, permanent wife, bas, settled. Settled. There is no more change that is going to happen. Now please understand, from the spiritual standpoint, there is no settling. This term itself is a foolish term because in this impermanent body, how can you have a permanent settlement? How is it possible? In this impermanent body, how can you have a permanent job? So all this permanent and all is nothing but, for some time, that's all. This we have to understand. It is just not possible to settle in this world. As they say, it's all chala chali ka khel. Everybody is in this queue in front of Yamarāja's office. Chala chali ka khel, this is the play of, coming and going. So when this is a situation, it is just not possible to settle here. As far as a manda person is concerned, he doesn't think about all that. Whereas a dhira, he sees these imperfections in this worldly life, the defects in worldly life. As far as a manda is concerned, according to him, he is settled, he is happy, he is not bothered about death, etc. Because his intellect is not able to pierce into the future and see the miseries of the future. His intellect is not able to pierce into the realities of life. So therefore he considers everything is fine. In Kannada, there is a beautiful saying. Allide nammane, illige summane. That is my real home. This is just a casual visit. I am just a traveler here. Where is your home? That is my home. Allide nammane, illige summane. But what about a manda person? According to him, illide nammane, alliddu summane. This is my real home. This worldly home is my real home. The other one, I don't even know whether such a thing exists. This is his attitude. So his entire life goes only for one thing, yoga-kshema, fulfilling the worldly needs. Now interestingly, this term yoga-kshema also comes in Bhagavad Gītā. Ananyās chintayanto mam ye jana priya-rūpāsate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yoga-kshemam vahamyaham. Bhagavan says, those people who consider spiritual goal as the highest goal and strive towards evolving spiritually, Bhagavan says, all their worldly needs I will take care. They need not bother about their worldly needs. I will take care of all that. Now see, as far as a shreyārthī is concerned, he need not bother about worldly needs because Bhagavan has given the promise that everything he will take care. And that we see in life also. It is something like this. When the mother sees her son studying hard for the exam, TV switched off, mobile is switched off, internet is switched off, and he is in his room studying without any kind of distraction, without going anywhere else, fully focused, seriously studying, concentrating. And when mother sees this, she becomes so happy. The son is doing what he is supposed to do. He is studying. So then what will mother do? She will take care of everything what her child wants, isn't it? Whether it is washing the clothes or whether it is cooking food. Everything is taken care. Cleaning the room, everything. She will not allow him to do anything. She will allow him to focus upon his studies because that's what he is supposed to do. She becomes so happy when she finds her son sitting and studying without distraction. So just like that, how a mother takes care of all the needs of her child who is doing what that child is supposed to do. In the same way, Bhagavan becomes so happy when he finds that we are putting forth effort to evolve spiritually, because this is what he also wants. He also wants us to put forth effort in the path of spirituality and reach him. So when he finds devotees putting forth effort like this, he becomes so happy. So what does he do? He says, don't worry about your yoga-kshema, everything I will take care so that you have enough time for spiritual pursuits. You spend your time in spiritual pursuit. This is what you are supposed to do. Just like that mother, you see. But manda people, they don't know this great truth. They take upon themselves in fulfilling all their yoga-kshema, their worldly needs, and therefore they become miserable also. Worries, anxieties, tension, fears are there. Very many things you don't know whether it will happen or not, whether you will be able to earn wealth or not. So many anxieties are there, fears are there. So they live a life filled with anxieties and fears, not knowing whether they will be able to take care of their yoga-kshema. Whereas here on the other side, a shreyārthī, Bhagavan himself says, I will take care, you don't worry. So shreyārthī strives towards spiritual evolution with a calm mind, with a peaceful mind. Now here, Yamarāja is so happy with Nachiketa that he has chosen this path of Shreyas. He is so happy, he congratulates Nachiketa again and again. So the next verse, verse number 3, page number 72. Sattvam priyān priya-rūpānscha kāmān abhidhyayan nachiketotyasrakshih naitam srinkām vittamāyīm avāptah yasyām majjanti bahavo manushyaah sattvam priyān priya-rūpānscha kāmān abhidhyayan nachiketotyasrakshih naitam srinkām vittamāyīm avāptah yasyām majjanti bahavo manushyaah. So your Lord Yamarāja says, Sattvam, Nachiketa, Sattvam, such a you. Nachiketa, you are such a wonderful person. What have you done? Atyasrakshihi, you have discarded, you have renounced, you have given up. What have you given up? Kāmān, desirable things. Now what are those desirable things? Priyān and priya-rūpān. What do you mean priyān? Priyān means those things which are dear to us, like our children, home, etc. Things dear to us, they are called as priyān. And then priya-rūpān. Priya-rūpān means those which are producers of delight, pleasant in appearance, which are pleasure giving. They are called as priya-rūpān. So priyān and priya-rūpān. So Nachiketa, you have given up these things. Priyān and priya-rūpān. And how did you give up? Not unintelligent renunciation, but abhidhyayan atyasrakshihi, judging them, thinking well over their defects. With perfect discrimination, you have renounced these things. Etam vittamāyīm srinkām na avāptah. You have not fallen into this vittamāyīm srinkām. Srinkā here has got two meanings. Srinkā can mean path, or Srinkā can also mean chain. So then this line will mean etam vittamayim Srinkā. So vittamayim Srinkā means either path of wealth, vittamayim means of wealth. So either path of wealth or it is chain of wealth, vittamayim Srinkā. So Nachiketa, you have not taken this path of wealth, or you are not trapped by this chain of wealth. Etam vittamayim Srinkām na avaptah yasyam bahavaha manushyaha majjanti. This is that path, Nachiketa, where majority of the people in the society, they take up this path. Majority of the people in the society, they are trapped by the chain of wealth. And this path you did not choose. This path of preyas you did not choose. Into this chain you did not fall. You did not get trapped by this chain of wealth. So Nachiketa, you are such a unique person, such a wonderful person. So here Bhagavan Yamarāja says, Aho buddhimata tava. Bhagavan Shankaracharya adds, indeed, your intelligence is praiseworthy. Aho buddhimata tava. So what is said here? So Lord Yamarāja says, Nachiketa, you have given up. So this renunciation of Nachiketa is praised here. Now see, very many times people comment that this renunciation of Nachiketa is a childish renunciation. Childish renunciation means what? He did not know the value of these things which Yamarāja was offering. Because he did not know the value of all this, therefore he gave up. But here Yamarāja himself says that no, Nachiketa's giving up all this is not because he was just a child and he did not know the value. No, it is abhidhyayan natyasrakshihi. Very well knowing the importance of these things in our life, with the backing of full discrimination. So it is a Vivek-yukta vairāgya. This renunciation, this giving up, this dispassion which this child is showing, it is backed by Viveka, right knowledge. How do we know? So in these previous verses we clearly see, Shobhava martyasya yadantakaitat sarvendriyanam jarayanti tejaha api sarvam jivitamalpameva. So these are the words of Nachiketa, where Nachiketa is saying that all these pleasures are impermanent, they are uncertain, they only drain away the vitalities of the body. Navitte tarpaniyo manushyaha, all this wealth and all can never satisfy us. The greed towards all this can never end. Now these are all the words of Nachiketa which clearly says that this renunciation which Nachiketa is showing here, it is not a blind, unintelligent renunciation. It is a renunciation fully backed by knowledge. Vivek-yukta vairāgya it is. Vairāgya at all times cannot be praiseworthy. There are different types of renunciation which we find in the society. A person renounces not necessarily because he has the right knowledge. The first category is renunciation due to ignorance. For example, you keep in front of a child a gold coin and a chocolate. Which one will the child take? The child will take only the chocolate because he knows the value only of the chocolate and not of gold coin. In front of a cat or a dog, you put a gold coin and some dog biscuit or whatever. The dog will take only that biscuit and not that coin. So this is renunciation due to ignorance. This is not the kind of renunciation which we find in Nachiketa. The second one is renunciation due to dejection. There is another kind of renunciation which we find in this world. Sometimes when we are sick, when some disease attacks us, suddenly we are aware of the impermanent nature of the world, impermanent nature of the body, and we fall into dejection, and at that time a tremendous amount of vairāgya, dispassion, is exhibited by us. Or it can happen that some near or dear ones, they die in the family, and again we get into dejection. At that time, in that cremation ground, when the body is burning, we are possessed by a kind of vairāgya, dispassion. So these are all different instances where vairāgya can come even to an ordinary person. But then what happens? After a few days, we completely forget about them, and again we get attached to our near and dear ones. This is called a smashana vairāgya, very famous. So what happens to that vairāgya? It is gone. After a few days, it is gone, and again that vairāgya is replaced by raga, attachment. So this vairāgya is not backed by our discriminating faculty. Intense discrimination is not there, and that is why again we fall back into the same mistake of raga, the mistake of attachment. Now there is another renunciation. Renunciation born out of temporary inspiration. What is this renunciation? When we listen to the scriptures, when we listen to the talks, satsang, etc., suddenly we are possessed by a kind of renunciation. The whole world appears to be senseless. God alone becomes the highest priority of life. In those moments of inspiration, we become highly spiritual and we think of renouncing the world also. And there are very many people who have done this. Listening to some satsang, they become highly inspired, and then, without thinking properly, they renounce. Whenever we take up a life of renunciation, we have to think properly, because we cannot trust this mind. If the renunciation is not born out of right understanding, then this renunciation will not truly bless us. That is why when Puja Gurudev, Swami Chinmaya, when he was Balakrishna Menon, when he sought permission to take sannyas from Swami Shivanji Maharaj of Divine Life Society, Swami Shivanji said, wait for another 6 months. Don't take decision in a hurry. Because we have to understand our state of mind, because it's an important decision. We don't know the nature of our mind. So take such decisions only after giving a thorough thought. So what happens when we take decision without properly thinking? So let's say this person takes into sannyasa ashrama because he was inspired by some talk. Now he becomes a sannyasi, a Swami. Now he is in the ashram. Now what happens in the ashram? Number one, you have no money. So therefore, even if you want to indulge in pleasures, it is not available. Number two, you are always alone. Most of the time, you have to spend your time all alone. Now when we are alone, we are in the company of our own mind. And now, if that mind is not fully trained, fully disciplined, fully educated, such a mind will be an indisciplined mind, untamed mind, wandering mind, monstrous mind, a stubborn mind. So what happens? Even when I sit for meditation, because it's an ashram, the mind cannot go towards the lower pleasures. Because my mind is not trained well, the mind cannot revel in the higher joys of spirituality. So neither can the mind revel in the higher, nor is the mind allowed to indulge in the lower. So what happens to such a mind? Such a mind becomes a trishanku. Such a mind feels as though it is in the trishanku loga, neither here nor there. Very many times, people who take decisions in haste, they land up in trishanku swarga, neither here nor there. And these are the people who bring bad name to the holy institutions, to the spiritual institutions founded by some Mahatmas. So we have to be extremely careful about this renunciation. Is this renunciation which is experienced by us, is it born out of proper understanding? So here Lord Yamarāja says, Nachiketa, your renunciation, abhidhyayan atyasrakshehi, you have given up by giving proper thought. So therefore, it's a perfect renunciation. Nachiketa, let me tell you, majority of the people, naitam Srinkām vittamayim avaptaha, this path which you have taken, you have renounced this path of wealth, and it is a path yasyam majjanti bahavo manushyaha. Very many people, in fact most of the people, they are tempted and they fall into this path alone. So now, why is it this path of preyas called as path of wealth? Vittamayim Srinkām is the term used here. The path of wealth. So as we have discussed earlier also, a preyārthī is the one who finds happiness by improving the external environment. Now what is the most important entity which helps us improve the external environment? The most important entity is wealth. So therefore the path of preyas is also called the path of wealth. So this person gives maximum importance to wealth, because it is with this wealth that I can create a conducive environment, a world of comforts and pleasures around me. So that's why this path is also called the path of wealth. Also, Srinkā means chain. So this chain of wealth. Why is it called chain? Now, generally we find that when a person earns lot of wealth, what happens is he becomes arrogant, egoistic, proud, and he tends to develop a sense of superiority complex. This generally comes when a person becomes wealthy, especially for a person who is not exposed to satsang, etc. So now what happens when the ego in us becomes strong? When the ego in us becomes strong, our sense of individuality becomes strong, the jiva bhava becomes strong. So when jiva bhava becomes strong, we are bound to this world. The greater the ego, the more firmly we are bound to this world. So this path of wealth can also be called the chain of wealth. We are chained to this world. A person who is wealthy, a person who is egoistic, such a person will not surrender unto God. He will try to solve all his problems not through spiritual ways, not by surrendering unto God, but he will try to solve all his problems through wealth. So therefore, wealth is also, it can be a chain which can chain us to this world. So that meaning is also right. Srinkā, chain. In fact, this term comes in the first valley's 16th verse, if you remember. The same term is used when Yamarāja, being happy with Nachiketa, because whatever Agni Vidya he had spoken, the child repeats. So Lord Yamarāja was so happy, he removes his necklace and gives it to Nachiketa. So that necklace was named there Srinkā. So the same term comes here also. So here Srinkā can mean path or chain. Right. So here, what does Yamarāja say? Yasya majjanti bahavo manushyaha. Nachiketa, this path of wealth is such a path which is generally taken by the majority of people. For the sake of yoga-kshema, the most important thing is wealth. So therefore, they take up this path. Now, what is the term used here? The term used is majjanti. Majjanti means drowning themselves. So, people drown themselves in trying to earn wealth. This is what is said. Now, what do you mean drowning oneself? Drowning oneself means majority of the people, as far as their life is concerned, they have only one priority in life, that is to earn more and more. There is no other priority in life. Now, this is called as drowning oneself. They have never even thought of life has any other purpose or not. They have not even thought of it. Entire life goes only in one: earn, earn and earn. Now this is called drowning in wealth. Now this term drowning is also very interesting. People drown in ocean. So what happens when a person is drowning in ocean? It is said that person feels very thirsty in that salty water, and when he feels thirsty, he drinks a little bit of water from the ocean. And now what happens when we drink the salt water? We feel more thirsty. And this person is not knowing that salt water will increase thirst. He doesn't know. So he drinks this salt water and feels more thirsty, drinks a little more water. Every time he drinks water, his thirst only increases. And this is exactly what happens with wealth also. The more and more we earn wealth without right understanding about life. So every time we earn wealth, we feel happy. There is an egoistic joy in earning more wealth. So we tend to believe that the real way to gain happiness in life is to earn more and more wealth. So then what happens? This earning wealth becomes a greed for wealth. And where does this greed take us? It takes us to hell. Trividham narakasyedam dwaram nashanam atmanah kama krodhas tatha lobha. So 3 doorways to hell. One doorway is the greed for wealth. Yasyam majjanti bhavo manushya. All the problems that we see in the society, one of the main reason is the greed for wealth. You must have seen, this greed is dangerous in all fields. If there is some honey which is dropped somewhere, you see how these ants, they surround these honey droplets and they drink and drink and drink, and they drink so much. Some of these ants, if you observe carefully, you will find they drink and drown in that honey and die. Why do they die? They die because over consuming that honey. The same thing happens with some of these mosquitoes also. They drink blood, and they drink so much of blood, excessive blood, that after that they are not able to fly. And then what happened? That owner of that blood, that man, he smashes that mosquito and kills. These are all the examples of majjanti, drowning. Or we have this moth which sees this fire, the brilliant fire, and goes and perishes, falls into it. So in the same way, human beings, like this moth, like this mosquito, or like that ant, they go and perish in this wealth. This is what is being said. But Nachiketa, your case is not like that. It's a wonder to see such a person who has renounced it, such a great temptation. Yamarāja himself says that this is a big temptation, because in the superficial analysis, anyone will only conclude that wealth is the one solution for all problems. In the superficial analysis of life, this is the conclusion we come to, that if I have wealth, then all my problems can be solved. Nachiketa, you are indeed a unique person. Now Yamarāja is going on praising Nachiketa. Next verse is also a praise showered on Nachiketa. Let us chant the next verse. Page number 74, verse number 4. Duramete viparite vishuchi avidyaya cha vidyeti jñātā vidyabhipsinam nachiketasam manye natva kama bahavo lolupanta. Duramete viparite vishuchi avidyaya cha vidyeti jñātā vidyabhipsinam nachiketasam manye natva kama bahavo lolupanta. Yes. Here Yamarāja says, Ete duram viparite. Nachiketa, these two paths, the path of Shreyas and the path of preyas, these two paths, ete, duram, extremely viparite. They are opposite to each other. So these two paths, the path of Shreyas and preyas, they are extremely opposite to each other, widely contradicting each other. They are mutually exclusive paths, and Vishuchi, having different goals. Vishuchi. They take us to two different goals. The path of preyas, this path takes us to samsāra, takes us to bondage. What about the other path? The other path takes us to moksha, takes us to liberation, takes us to freedom. Vishuchi, having different goals. So they are absolutely opposite paths with two different goals. Ete, duramete, viparite, vishuchi. And what are the names of these paths? Ya, vidya, avidya, cha iti jnata. Iti jnata, the wise people say. They know. They call these paths. What do they call these paths? Vidya and avidya. The path of Shreyas is called the path of vidya, and the path of preyas is called the path of avidya. So two different names are given. So Shreyas is called vidya, preyas is called avidya. O Nachiketa, Nachiketasam vidyabhipsinam manye. Nachiketa, I consider you as vidyabhipsinam, as a desirer of vidya, as a desirer of the path of Shreyas. O Lord, how did you come to this conclusion? It is because tva bahavaha kamaha na alolupanta. It is because you were never alolupanta. Alolupanta means tempted. You were not tempted by bahavaha kamaha. Bahavaha, very many, kamaha, enjoyable things. So you were never tempted by these enjoyable things. That itself shows that you are not a preyārthī, you are a shreyārthī, you are a vidyārthī, you are a seeker of knowledge. You are a seeker of the path of good. Because you are never tempted by the enjoyable things which I had offered. So what are the things which Lord Yamarāja had offered? The joy of family life, the joy of long life, the joy of power, the joy of wealth, the joy of heavenly pleasures, all these joys. These were the offerings. But what did Nachiketa do? He renounced all of them. So very clearly we can see Nachiketa is not a kamarthi or a sukharthi or an artharthi or a preyārthī. Now these are all similar terms. Who is he then? He is a vidyārthī, he is a shreyārthī. He gave importance to vidya and therefore renounced everything else. Now this is a qualification of a vidyārthī. Who is a true vidyārthī? The seeker of knowledge. The one who can renounce everything else for the sake of vidya, for the sake of knowledge. Such a person is called a vidyārthī. So this is the test given by Lord Yamarāja to Nachiketa, and Nachiketa passed with flying colors. So this verse we will have to discuss a little more in detail, how these two paths are opposite to each other. This discussion has to be taken up, which we will see in the next class. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।